Yeah, let's get on to the our feature presentation. Andrew's been watching the new Netflix series, The Haunting of Bly Manor,
Yes.
and has informed me that he has quite an opinion on it.
Yes, I do.
So, without further ado,
So, Nick, The Haunting of Bly Manor
yeah,
is loosely related. So, I think The Haunting of is going to be like a series of series.
yeah, like an interconnected, like sort of.
Well, they're not interconnected. I don't
Okay,
think, at least. I think it's sort of a fuck, what's that? American Horror Story kind of
yeah,
deal.
okay,
It's got the same actors. I think there's only one. I mean, I don't know. I only watched one episode of the other series because it was that shit. Um, but this, I think, it's got one of the same actresses in it. Anyway, this show is fucking awful, Nick. It's so bad.
So this is the one's based on the Turning of the Screw, isn't it?
Maybe, I don't know.
I think because of course Haunting of Hill House is based on, I think it's just called The Haunting, and
Right?
now we've
Yeah,
gone
yeah.
to
The
Turning of
Haunting,
the Screw. So it's sort of like they're doing like classic gothic horror literature in each series.
but it's fucking awful.
And that ends the review of Haunting of Bly Manor.
Yeah.
So
No, let me tell you why. Right.
please
So
do.
I've watched 5 episodes or 4 episodes out
Out of
of. Hold on, I'll tell you out of how many. There's 9 episodes.
9.
Yeah, so I'm about
That's
halfway through.
That's a weird amount. You know,
Yeah,
normally 8 or 10.
I don't know. So The Haunting of Hill House was also fucking awful, but for some reason revered and like, oh, this show is excellent, or and really, really well written, and it happened to be possibly the worst written show I'd ever seen in my fucking life. To the point where, there's like, look at all these. So well, again, I've only seen like the first episode and then clips and bits from the other series later in the series. So my main problem with that, which Bly Manor suffers a lot less from, but I'll get back to it. Haunting of Hill House flicks between this is today and this is 20 years ago. And the problem is, all of the characters are alive in the present day, are all of the characters that are in peril in 20 years ago. And they're like, oh, there's lots of spooky ghosts chasing after them. Are they going to die? No. Which is my main issue with it, because the writing is fucking awful, and it's always like, oh, this fucking kid is gonna get caught by the ghost. Oh, the ghost is right there. Is it gonna get him? No, it's not. It's not gonna get him, because I've seen him alive and perfectly well and not killed by a ghost. And the twist end is also not that good. Do you want me to spoil it for you, Nick?
I mean, the likelihood that I'm really going to watch it is quite low. So, but if you haven't watched Haunting of Hill House and haven't been persuaded by Andy's tirade thus far, do skip ahead now.
So basically, there's like this ghost woman who's got like a broken neck or something, and she keeps following the main lady, and in the end, a different spooky ghost catches the main lady and like strangles her and breaks her neck or whatever. And it turns out the spooky broken neck ghost lady was actually the main lady the whole time.
Oh, oh no.
Yep. But trust me, Nick, it's the best written show of the 21st century. I'll tell you that for free.
So why do people like it so much?
I
Do you know
don't
what the...
know. I genuinely don't know. I cannot feasibly understand at all why anyone would actually want to watch this show. It is fucking awful. Because you know what else makes it fucking awful? Is that in the modern day, you have all these characters, but they're all fucking wankers. So it's like, oh, when there is a bit of peril in the modern day and they might die because all the spooky ghosts are chasing them and there's no future, so we don't know if they do die or not. It's like, I don't fucking care. In fact, please do catch them and fucking kill them because they're all fucking awful and annoying and horrible people. Anyway, that's Haunting of Hill House.
I'm reminded of like when you last watched a slasher film and you like Texas Chainsaw, I think it was.
What? No, Texas Chainsaw was fine. They weren't all awful, horrible people.
There was something we reviewed as like either part of Field of Screams, and you were like, "Oh, they're all awful people," and I was like, "Yeah, it's a slasher film." But then I don't think The Haunting is supposed to be a slasher at all, is it? I mean, it predates all that. It's gothic horror. It's ghost stories.
Yeah. There's all like spooky ghosts and shit. Anyway, so Bly Manor is slightly different. So it shows you a bit in the present day. And this old lady's like, oh, I'll tell you a ghost story. And it's like 30 years ago or something. And it takes place in the 60s or 70s or something like that. Maybe it's more than 30 years then. I don't know. 60s, 70s, London. Well, England, because it's actually in the countryside.
Ye olde countryside.
What's annoying is, right, it's in the countryside, but everyone's just got like a posh London accent.
Well, yeah, because if you live in London, the first thing you want to do is get away from London.
Well, yeah, I suppose. But, you know, they've got like these two like, the gardener and the cook are supposed to be from Bly, but they just sound like they're from central London. It's like, okay, you gonna try and give them any sort of country twang? No.
Then are the actors all American in this, or have they got British
No,
actors?
I think they are all English.
Oh.
And they've got an English bloke doing a Scottish accent, and it's pretty bad. Not quite as bad as yours, but...
Hey, when I was studying train spotting, there was a good period of time where I could do that Scottish accent very well. I have since lost the ability, but there was a time.
Anyway, so it's like, 30 years ago, I'll tell you this horror story. And it's so there are these kids, and their parents have both died. And then their nanny, so like their au pair or whatever, also died. She like killed herself. So all the kids are like supposed to be all fucked up and stuff. And the main character, she's American, so she comes from America and is like, oh, I'll look after these kids because I used to be a teacher and I'm, can do it. And then they hire her, whatever. And then some spooky shit happens in their house. But it doesn't happen, because that's my first problem. This show is cripplingly fucking boring. It's 4 episodes in. The 2 twists, in inverted commas, I saw coming from the first episode. Literally, the first, the twist characters, or the twist about these characters. As soon as those characters came on screen, I predicted the twists very accurately.
Oh, very humble.
Thank you. It's very poorly written. The 2 child actors are horrendously fucking irritating and cannot act. Apologies to them, but they can't.
Andy, you've got such a way with the children, don't you? Your endless love for them is really unrivaled.
Yeah, fuck them. But the little girl, she's supposed to be like 7 or 8. She is better than the boy, and I'll get to the boy because he's pretty fucking annoying.
Famous last words before the court case.
She's ends every sentence with "It's perfectly splendid," which makes you
ironically?
No, after like the 6th time you hear it, you want to bash your brains out. And she says it at least 10 times an episode, and it's like, please fucking shut up. She's a bit better because she's supposed, like the classic horror trope of spooky child, spooky
Yeah.
young girl.
Yeah, if there's a young girl in a horror film, she's probably responsible for something.
Yeah, she's a bit weird, and she's the only one who can see all the ghosts in the house, so she's a bit weird, and she keeps talking and looking off, and she's quite good at that. But her problem is, I mean, she's young. I mean, I'm not blaming herself. It's more the writing and direction as well, because obviously there's ways you can get around it. But, it just feels like she's reading off a script the entire time. Do you know what I mean? Like, the director's been like, okay, here's the next page. Can you just read that as woodenly as possible towards the camera, please? Okay, brilliant. Cheers. See you later.
Don't try too hard, do you? You'll tire yourself out.
And then with the boy, who's supposed to be 10 or 11, his acting is so fucking bad. It's just awful. And he's like creepy, but not in the right way. Creepy like I don't know. He's supposed to be this weird little creepy boy, but it's not creepy in the way it wants you to think he's creepy. It's creepy because, I don't know, he's a bit of a pervert. So, spoilers, if you ever do want to watch it. But I'm just going to spoil it anyway.
Yeah.
And this hasn't been resolved where I am in the series yet, but it's another prediction. He's been being haunted or possessed or whatever by one of the characters who's like this proper asshole, like an abusive boyfriend type. They think he's showing up, but he's actually haunting the place because he's a ghost, and he's obviously haunting the boy because the boy keeps being a prick, and it's like, whatever. Anyway, whereas the bloke who's playing the abusive boyfriend guy, do you remember in The Invisible Man?
Yeah.
The guy who played the abusive boyfriend in that?
Yes.
He's been typecast.
Oh, is it him again?
It's the same bloke, yeah, same
All
actor.
right.
But whereas
definitely
he's
know his
really
name.
good at it because he's very good at being like the intimidating, because he's this tall, very muscular.
Yeah, he's got the physique for it.
Yeah.
For intimidation.
The 10-year-old boy doesn't have that, and he just looks a complete tit when he says all these fucking like macho things. It's like, just shut the fuck up. Also, there's a character in it you never see eat or drink, and it's like, it's really obvious that she is a ghost.
Oh, I thought you were
also
my first thought was like, are they one of the robots from Artificial Intelligence?
No, was obviously she's a ghost because there's a bit where they're in this like chapel. She's like, oh, I light a candle for all the dead people. And we only know about 3 dead people, but there's 4 candles.
Oh,
That was supposed to be the X-File thing, by the way. And it's just, fucking obvious that she's a spooky ghost. It's just really, 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 really dull. And very, very poorly written, and it's somehow still like a 8.8 on IMDb, and it's just fucking bad, and I just don't understand why anyone likes it.
So does anything happen at all in it so far? Like, is there any actual action or plot, or is it literally just people sort of doing stuff?
So the main character, the American lady, she's got like PTSD because her ex-boyfriend died. He's got these like spooky lamp eyes because he's got these glasses and they are yellow and the rest of him's like dark, and it's like, oh, he got hit by a car then. And then, in the flashback episode, it shows him getting hit by a car, and it's like, yep.
Checks out.
Called it. Anyway, but that's another thing, right? That episode annoyed me because she's obviously like a really big part of her character is that she's got this PTSD from the dead boyfriend, and that's why she moved away from America, because she didn't want to be around there anymore. And then it showed you the episode where he died, and it wasn't that traumatic. But also she's supposed to feel guilty because she killed him, in inverted commas, because they had an argument and he got out of the car and then fucking died. But I don't. Again, I'm just going to blame the writing. but it's written in such a way that it just doesn't feel like it's her fault at all, and that she just shouldn't be guilty. She was just like, yeah, it's not working out. Gonna break up with you, and he's like, oh fuck you. He gets out of the car and he fucking dies.
But then isn't that the way of guilt, that sometimes you feel
Well,
guilty
yeah.
about things that weren't your fault?
Yes, if it were written better than a 10-year-old's fan fiction, then yeah, sure, but it's not.
So how would you do it differently? That's the question.
I don't know. Make it make it her shouting "fuck off" at him. Make it so it's not like, oh, he's just being a twat and gets out and then happens to die. Make it so that, she's shouting at him or something. Make it more her fault than just she's like, oh yeah, it's not working out, see you, bye. And he's like, oh, all right then, fuck you, get out of the car and just dies. Make it have some fucking drama, some impact, something, rather than just a cheap jump scare as he gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just not good.
No, wouldn't recommend.
Just absolutely not. But I want, if anyone actually does like this series and wants to tell me why it's good, then please do, because it's fucking horrendous.
Well, that's what's sort of just going to come on to. Like, have you read many, like, positive reviews for it? And, like, sort of seen the viewpoints on the other side?
So, well, I've obviously seen the ratings on IMDb, but also one of the ladies I work with, she said she'd seen it, and she was like, oh, it was really good. And I was like, oh, so why did you think it was good? Because I thought it was rubbish. And she was like, oh, just it really scared me. And I was like, what I like from a horror series is it to be all spooky and like, dramatic like that. And I was like, why? Because it's not scary at all. There is no tension. There's nothing. Nothing is fucking happening. It was like, oh yeah, there's some muddy footprints. Oh, and there's also a spooky, like, plague doctor man who's in the background of a couple of shots. And it's like, okay, why do we care at all?
See, I was wondering about, like, is there a case that, the absolute, like, mainstream kind of audience users of Netflix just aren't used to horror enough that something like this is scaring them? But then, I don't think that is a case, because the horror is probably more mainstream now than it has been before, than it ever was before. Like, so many people, certainly of our generation, are, like, just casually into horror and stuff.
Yeah.
And those are same people seem to like the Haunting series. So, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen them, so I can't really judge precisely what it is that draws people to them.
I don't know if it's just me, because I seem to be the only person who hates them. I've spoken to friends of ours, mutual friends of ours, who I know, well, actually that's very questionable what I was about to say, so don't worry. I was going to say, has good taste in films, but it's Matt.
Oh, that's some say.
Who likes Suburban Sasquatch, so...
Hey, that's an ironic purchase, I think.
Well, is it?
Went for a lot of effort for it.
And he said he thought it was alright. And I was just like, how? It's just not. It's not good.
What does Georgia think of it?
She really liked Haunting of Hill House. And she thinks Bly Manor is okay. Like, not as good.
Does she share your criticisms of it? Or has she got different
She definitely
gripes?
thinks it's boring. And she hates the kids as well. But I think the thing is, I think you're supposed to hate the kids. But I think I hate the kids for the wrong reason.
Yeah, my limited understanding of the story of Turning of the Screw is that the kids are like the antagonists, like they are the evil presence. So I don't think you're necessarily supposed to sympathise with them. But the thing is, I know you don't like children anyway, so I think that's just taken a whole...
But the thing is, right, what I find myself doing, I'm also watching Stranger Things at the moment. And I don't hate the kids in that.
But the kids in that are the protagonists, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not... Is that the difference?
The other thing, what I think is, again, the writing in Bly Manor, is that those, and again, I know what you're going to say, it's because they're the antagonists or whatever, but they just don't, even when they're not haunted or possessed or whatever. They just don't behave like actual real life human beings. They behave like, they're reading a script, reading stage directions. They just don't. No child actually speaks like that. And I think what Stranger Things absolutely nailed is the kids in that behave like actual children. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whereas in this just like, it's so unbelievable because like no fucking 10-year-old boy behaves like that or speaks like that or does anything like that.
See, I'm going to respond to this in the way you think I will, but I'm going to add some nuance to it.
Go on.
What you've told me about the way the kids sort of do, or at least the girl sort of delivers her lines very woodenly and flatly, I think it is bad direction, but I don't think you're giving it enough credit in that. I think, because again, my understanding of the story is that the kids are like possessed, certainly.
Yeah.
So,
Which is, again,
I think they
obvious.
tried to make the girl creepy, and the idea of making her deliver lines in a possessed way, in a way that a young girl could pull off with limited acting experience, would be to just basically deliver lines really kind of coldly. And then that's through bad direction. That's come off as just reading off a script, as opposed to like sort of flat, emotionless sort of pod people kind of speak. So that, I mean, I've not seen it, but that's my theory based on what you've told me.
I mean, I know it's so bad that it feels like it's on purpose. Like, as in, like, no kid speaks like that, so it's got to be on purpose. Yeah. But it's just executed so poorly that it's like just just really bad and hard to watch. So
with the all the recent stuff about Netflix cancelling things after 2 seasons, despite how popular it might be, do you reckon Haunting's gonna get cancelled after Bly Manor?
No, I don't think it will, because it's massively popular. It's massively high rated. It's, well, I don't know, that doesn't stop other things.
Well,
but also
exactly.
It must be very, very cheap to make. Because it's all set in one location. There's no CGI on the ghosts, or not really. Because it's just people dressed up. In the first series, they had a guy like always hovering off the ground, but that's not impossible to achieve.
You can do that with mirrors.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Or just force perspective.
I just think it's so. Saying that, actually, the Haunting of Hill House had some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life, though.
Maybe because the budget's so low.
Yeah,
they can only afford like
limited.
Because
I imagine it must have a low budget. Well, or at least if it's got a high budget, it's gone on weird things, because it cannot be that expensive to film or make.
All right, crew, let's break for lunch. It's caviar again today. We've got to get through the whole tub, so feel free to grab a lobster to sort of help scoop it up with, mop it up,
So that's Bly Manor. Shit, don't watch it.
I think that's 2 thumbs down from Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
See, what's going to happen now is I'm going to go away and end up watching them and come back and tell you why you're wrong.
Well, yeah, you're welcome to. I want to understand why people think it's good, because it's not.